Hello everybody. So a bit of cricket news today was that Tim Paine has decided to take an indefinite leave from all cricket, international, domestic, second class, second 11 matches for Tasmania and Tasmania second 11 and anything else that might be. And this of course is related to the reaction to his his sexy text messages from back in 2017. Now, I thought to give my response to this. So, first of all, there's a bit of surrounding commentary about this as well, which is that a number of current bowlers, at least one batsman, have expressed their support for Paine continuing to be in the team. Now, we haven't heard from every player, but I think we heard from Nathan Lyon. I can't remember who else, but I think Marcus Harris, batsman, who said that Tim Paine is the best keeper and should remain behind the stumps. Now, the fact that we haven't heard from all of them doesn't mean that the others think that he shouldn't be in the team. Although we have heard from former Australian captain and quite influential player. He's now retired in Ricky Ponting. Now, Ricky Ponting also from Tasmania. There haven't been very many Australian Test players from Tasmania, so it's quite important. And Ricky Ponting said that it would be a distraction if Paine stayed in the squad, which was something I said as well. I think, particularly this being an Ashes series, which is the most important certainly in Australian cricket, possibly in international cricket, it's the sort of thing where any distraction is going to be a problem, even though it's at home. And even though England have their own issues, of course, they have that racism controversy, which I haven't commented on because I think it's a little bit silly in a lot of ways. But and I'm also not completely informed with it, so I don't want to say the wrong thing with it. But certainly, this seems to be a bigger deal to me. But I don't know that England will necessarily grab onto it because they're dealing with their own issues. Nonetheless, it's not uncommon for both sides to focus on each other's issues and not their own. But it's certainly not in Australian media, or not very much, about England's racism issues. So my suspicion is that this would dominate. Had this not been around, we may have been focusing on England's racism issues, and I think it was Michael Vaughan, who's a former English captain, who got banned from or kicked out of Sky Sports in relation to some comments he made on Twitter or something or other. And there were some other players that were accused and what have you. So they have their own issues, but we're focusing on this, and it does make a difference. We know it makes a difference. We know what happened after David Warner and Steve Smith were banned, and then when they came back and they were playing against England and in an Ashes, and Steve Smith was ridiculed. I mean, he turned it around, but it was hard. And I think that if I was Smith or Warner, and we haven't heard from them, but if I was either of them, I'd be saying, well, we don't want that, and also that it's fair that he go, because for the distraction, if nothing else, they had to go, and also Paine's close to retirement age anyway. Not just retirement age, but he was talking about retiring. And, he was talking about retiring, of course, 4 years ago, brought back so he could lead the side. So he could replace Wade, who was out of form, so that we wouldn't have that uncertainty as to whether Wade should stay or we should go to Carey. So we instead picked the third person in Paine. So, look, there's a lot of reasons why he should go. Now, there's also another thing that I've heard, and that is that for the Ashes, that they're planning on having Pat Cummins go in as the captain. Not really surprised there, as he was the vice captain already. But a little bit of a surprise is that they're going, apparently, and this hasn't been confirmed, but they're apparently going in with Steve Smith as vice captain. Now, having Steve Smith as vice captain indicates that long term they are looking at having Smith go back into the captaincy. Now, there's apparently been a panel set up to interview them to make sure they're okay for the job. So they're doing it in the right way. And look, I certainly prefer that than going straight back to Smith, because I think that we need to have that transition, and I think it's the right transition to go vice captain then captain. And I think, yeah, Pat Cummins deserves the spot at captaincy. He's been a great performer for a number of years now, I think 2 or 3 at least. And of course he had that long injury since, and I think he made his debut 10 years ago, then had about 6 years off injured, and has worked out his injury issues, and yeah, deserves the captaincy role. And I'd love to see Pat Cummins lead for the entire Ashes, and who knows, perhaps a little bit beyond that, I don't know. It would depend on how things go. But I'd also love to see Smith go back into the captaincy role. It was said Smith actually improved his batting average while he was a captain, which is one of the signs of a good captain. But he also, he was already doing really well, but he also led the side very, very well. And whilst I think, look, I agree that he stuffed up in his captaincy role in certainly the comments he made about Cameron Bancroft's cheating. And yeah, I think it was, in retrospect, he should have made Cameron Bancroft answer the questions about his ball tampering, and you know, that was something that he should have thought through a bit more. He wasn't expecting to be betrayed and backstabbed by his own player after he'd supported him, but at the same time you've got to be careful with such things. And you know, I think that he did deserve some punishment, not as much as he got, but you know, sometimes in cricket they do go a bit overboard, and that's just the nature of cricket, that it's a gentleman's game and they have to put up these high standards, sometimes impossibly high. But even still, he did do some wrong things. He certainly did the wrong thing by lying for Bancroft and helping to cover it up, and you know, certainly I think he deserved to lose the captaincy then because of that. But I think he's been much more mature and much more careful since then, and certainly his captaincy other than that was really fantastic, and I think that he deserves this spot back, but not in the Ashes. And I think it would be perhaps a little bit premature to put him in the straight back into the captaincy role, particularly under these circumstances, where Paine's resigned, or you know, then left because of something that happened 4 years ago, a scandal if you like. And as I've gone on about the scandal, and look, I think it was pretty obviously a bit of blackmail, and I think they're quite right not to punish him for it. But at the same time, we also have to acknowledge this is cricket, and look, I don't think he necessarily should have lost the captaincy over that now, but you know, it's sort of, if he's resigned, I think that he has to leave the team as well, and it's a bit of that difficult position to be in. And I mean, the fact that he got the captaincy in spite of that, when he was actually the reason he got the captaincy was because he was taking over from players that were embroiled in the whole ball tampering thing, as he was one of the only clean players. I mean, on merit he wasn't the next one in line for the captaincy. I mean, even if you went Smith then Warner, after them was probably Hazelwood or Lyon, and you know, it wasn't Paine. You know, there were a few steps. He was probably 7th, 8th. You know, he wasn't in contention, because he wasn't in contention for the wicket-keeping spot either. Now, I had a look at the stats, and in the last 12 months, Tim Paine has taken more dismissals as a wicket-keeper than anyone else in the world at international level, or at least at test level. And probably overall he's second behind Quinton de Kock. So second best international keeper, which is pretty good. And some people would argue, well, you know, those statistics don't always mean everything. You know, maybe Paine was better, but then there'll be other people that will argue for various other wicket keepers. And that's just the nature of wicket keepers. We're always going to support our own, and you know, and we get very biased and subjective. But it still is some good stats for him. And while he's been out for injured and all that, there's still, you know, there's a claim that he might be the best wicketkeeper in the world. Now, of course, domestically, we actually have some that have done better than him, and especially Alex Carey, who I think has consistently been better than Paine throughout, at least domestically, throughout his entire time in the Australian side. But I mean, Matthew Wade topped the dismissals chart in the T20 World Cup, so we can't say that he's doing badly as a keeper either. And I mean, that's the thing, is that we can throw these statistics around, and then some people will say, well, that's just because you have bowlers that make it easy for wicket keepers. You know, so I think that we can't pay that much attention to that. But I think beyond all that, I think it is too much of a distraction. Of course, the choice then is probably between Carey and Inglis. I've said before, I think Carey absolutely deserves it, and I think we have to go with the sensible choice under these circumstances. Whilst there is an argument for Inglis as a bit of a hunch, and of course you've got Shane Warne there saying that he should go in, I don't think we need to have hunches right now. That's it for me. Bye bye.